Hello everyone, welcome to From Here with a View. For this episode, we're doing something a little different. As we mark 10 years of We Are the Seeds in Philadelphia, we've been reflecting on the relationships that have shaped our work. The Philly arts community is a beautiful, deeply connected space, and we are so grateful to be a part of it. Through our wider creative community, we connected with Rayne, also known as Angela Bay. Rayne is a Southwest Philadelphia artist and Barrymore award-winning creator whose work explores transformation, identity, and history. From this connection, Ever began to take shape, a new theater project about ancestry, reconnection, and our ties to the land and each other. The project has grown beyond We Are the Seeds, with Rayne and Zachariah Julian developing it together. Zachariah, a Hickory Apache composer, producer, and longtime creative force within We Are the Seeds, sat down with Rayne for this conversation. What you'll hear shows what happens when artists meet openly, share their stories and brilliance, and explore where those connections can lead. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Hello and welcome to From Here with a View, a We Are the Seeds Philadelphia podcast. My name is Zachariah Julian, your host for today's show, and my guest is the multi-talented Rayne. Rayne is a Southwest Philadelphia-born artist who tells stories of transformation centering Black folk. They are the founder of Upstream Performance Collaborative, a Barrymore award-winning theater company dedicated to boundary-breaking, new work by underrepresented and emerging artists. Rayne has collaborated with more than 60 artists and culture organizations nationwide as a performer, writer, director, and designer. Their honors include an Independence Foundation Fellowship in the Arts, the Leeway Art and Change Award, the Wayne F. Millward 57 Prize, and 6 Barrymore Award nominations, with a Barrymore win for Outstanding Original Production, Comment. Welcome to the show, Rayne.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you've done a lot of amazing work working with other artists, other just people from all over the different country, from different cultures, and just telling these amazing stories.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, the big reason why I wanted to be a live performance artist getting into theater is to tell stories and to also just, listen to other people. Like the art of listening is a lot of what we do as theater people and as artists in general, but especially as theater people. Yeah.
Would you mind going back into more of your background of how you got to where you are?
Yeah, for sure. I was born and raised in Southwest Philly. Really, in elementary school, I started as a poet. My mom talks about this poem that was published at John Hines Wildlife Refuge that was about flowers. They just posted it in the lobby, and I was in first grade. And my teacher at the time in that class is Ange has a real talent. I know that they're only in first grade, but you should cultivate their writing skills. And they really, really excelled at being a tree in Little Red Riding Hood. It is the school play. So maybe performing arts is also something that Ange would be interested in. And I'm going to call myself Ange throughout this. Rayne is my superhero sort of trans identity alter ego. So I will probably use them interchangeably, but Ange and Angela are just fine. So my parents took that seriously, put me in the lottery for Philadelphia Performing Arts Charter School. And because it was a lottery, I didn't end up getting in. My younger sister did. And my mom stormed the building with my poem from John Hines Wildlife Refuge. You're getting my kid into this school. They have real talent here. And my sister and I were admitted into the school the next year. PPAX is on Broad in Oregon, and it's a unique school because we were able, from second grade through 8th grade, we're able to dive into the professional arts world. I was, of course, interested in creative writing because that was sort of the thing that got me into the school. But I actually ended up being a vocal music major and auditioning for Whistle Down the Wind when it came through the Academy of Music. I was in Oliver, professional production of Oliver. I was in the Pennsylvania Ballet's The Nutcracker every year as a toy soldier for 4 years. So there's a very unique sort of situation where I was able to be a child and working alongside very large scale professional theater and ballet and music theater productions.
Wow.
And I didn't really like understand how much privilege that was. Before I even graduated middle school, I had worked on every theater in the Avenue of the Arts. And that's something that was just like crazy, except for the Wilma. But the Wilma during that time hadn't moved there quite yet. But it was something that I do not take for granted. And I ended up staying in Philly through high school. I went to Friends Select and was able to have like a very personalized education there. And the Quaker values there, absolutely, like in retrospect, have informed a lot of my work, especially in the way of listening and introspection and, you know, communal kindness and things like that. And I kept up with theater and my writing, and through college, interned everywhere in the city as a, you know, grunt worker, I'll say with affection, but learned all the ins and outs of like arts administration as well, and like teaching artistry. And in organizations like Philly Young Playwrights really like grew me, especially through high school, and then ended up being hired at Philly Young Playwrights for different arts education programs. And so had a very unique sort of like upbringing in this community where a lot of my teachers and mentors became my colleagues and friends, like in like a very like clean arc. And now, like, you know, graduated college back in 2019. Just kept, by like the grace of God or whatever higher power, just kept getting work. And very early on too, I was able to be a co-lead artist on a Pew project for On Buried Ground. And that was something that was like, whoa, like a defining moment of like, that is, people trust me enough to pay me that amount of money for a project, but also like I'm an established artist in this city in a way that I didn't believe in before. And I'm excited to like, I'm always about like spreading the wealth of like opportunity to people, which is what Upstream Performance Collaborative is. And my way of doing that on a very small scale. It's really just me in a trench coat. It's like, you know, applying for grants and reading scripts and producing. That's sort of been my long arc of being a multi-hyphenate. So I act, I write, I direct, I produce, I design, and I do whatever it takes to tell a story with really kind, talented people. Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. So art has always been there. You're surrounded by art, but where do you see yourself going with all your training and everyone you're surrounded with, and you're just so grounded. It's wonderful to talk to an artist like that. It's like,
thank you.
Yeah. Giving back.
Yeah, I think. Well, I grew up in the hood, so, and you know, in a very underserved area, Philadelphia. And my neighborhood high school would have been Bartram High, and I had a really unique upbringing where my mother has a doctorate degree in educational leadership, and my father is a contractor and was a chef and was a dungeon master, and you know, was an artist and like works with his hands. And so growing up, I had a very unique set of parents where they were like, okay, education is the most important thing. If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, was like a huge thing that they would say. And then also my mom was like, get a degree in business. Whatever you do, double major in business. Did not do that. I don't know. Maybe she was right. I should have done that. But where do I see myself going? I've always had this dream because I grew up in such like an underserved area without a lot of resources in my neighborhood. I've always wanted to like open a theater company. Like I just always wanted to have like a performing arts center and be like the producing artistic director of a theater that I could, bring people into that wouldn't have been exposed to the arts in the way that I very uniquely was able to be. Because I don't say this with like jest or with like any kind of like hyperbole, but like the arts saved my life. Learning how to express myself, having people listen to me, and like even if the audience is only 5 people, like it saved my life. And like being able to be an audience member and be an active participant in other people's stories, really developing that skill saves my life every day. And so I hope to be an artistic director of a company, whether my own or someone else's, coming in to like bolster a dream that's already been established in an underserved neighborhood. That's just been the goal. And however I need to supplement my income, I'm not looking to be like famous or a star or like anything like that. And that's always been true for me. whatever else I need to do to make that happen alongside the dream. Cause I also would love to like one day have a house and, have like stable, housing and live as comfortably as I can for me. And I know the arts world is in a lot of trouble, especially with this current administration. But
Yeah.
I would just love to just have an arts organization, open up an art space, be a part of an art space that is serving underserved communities. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. I guarantee you're going to get there. No problem at
I
all.
hope so.
I have one request. Can I perform at your theater?
Oh my God, yeah. You want to be a resident artist?
Yeah,
please. We'll have a specific budget to like fly you to Philly and and in my house that I will own. Ooh. You could live in the attic or whatever if we really
That'd be great. That'd be so much fun.
Yeah.
It's amazing what art like gives you as a person and how it gives back to the community. Mm-hmm. It prepares you for so much for life. Like I think of like Native American ceremony. I had this great honor of talking to Mozart Gabriel, and he was talking about how ceremony kind of prepares you for life. And I was listening to him talk about that, and I was thinking about art as well, and that kind of has that same feel of connecting with people, resonating with people, and bringing people together, just the community. And when you were younger, is there like ever like an art piece or like a memory that you have that compelled you to create art, to draw people together, or just give back to the community?
Yeah, my dad, like jack of all trades for like survival, but also because he's a lot like me where he can't like really settle into one thing. I have very early memories of hearing him play left-handed bass in the basement of my childhood home. Wow. And like the whole house would kind of rock with the bass. And then he also had DJ equipment down there. So, late into the night and to my mother's chagrin, but like the house would rock and then there'd be like records spinning down in the basement. And
wow.
Yeah, and so music being in the house and just like the thing of like going away to work on your art, just like being alone, and then him like sharing it with us, like coming upstairs very excitedly, like, look what I made. And so that's very early. That's like in my bones, like in the bones of the home I grew up in a lot of ways. I immediately I think of like the Philadelphia Orchestra, oddly enough, because like with PPACs, we did a lot of like, going and experiencing professional artists. I remember in the Philadelphia Orchestra, like listening to them play for the first time. And I like faked my way through orchestra as a class through PPACs. They put me on with viola. And I remember just going, do. Like, oh, you're so good at this. I was like, no, I'm not. I'm an actor, clearly. And then they put me on violin. They're like, oh, you're not very good at this, actually. So yeah, I'm not. But when I have early memories of hearing the orchestra and just like the swell of music and like being young too and experiencing just like a conductor, like it's like magic. It's like magic. It's like that scene in Fantasia, the Disney movie where it's like, whoa, like you have a magic wand and you're getting like 100 people playing all the different things to like breathe together. Like that to me was just so transformative. And I'm also recalling, the Opera Philadelphia used to do a touring version of the Magic Flute, but Star Wars version.
What?
Yes.
What?
And they brought it to my school. I remember like sitting in the round in the dance studio, which is also our gym because performing arts schools. And I just remember, I don't remember what the character's name was, but they cast him as a Wookiee and he like dropped to his knees and did the Wookiee sound. And I was like, I don't even like Star Wars as an adult, but like, I'm laughing and I'm having a great time. And that Queen of the Night aria really did something to me. And so, yeah, so those are three formative sort of like performance experience, arts experiences. That's like, wow, this is like moving my soul.
Hello, this is Zachariah Julian. Exciting news. Project Antelope is now Seeds Art Market. Seeds Art Market is an Indigenous-led online marketplace carried forward by We Are the Seeds, supporting Indigenous artists with resources and opportunities to grow on their own terms. When you support Seeds Art Market, you're strengthening Indigenous economies and helping carry Indigenous creativity forward. Seeds Art Market, created with care, rooted in community, and shared with the world.
The story you're telling about your dad and the house
Mm-hmm.
resonating, like that's beautiful. That's deep.
Mm-hmm.
That's you feeling it, you know, and hearing it and feeling it, and that's so cool. That's amazing.
Thank you. And my dad's a very complicated man. Like I'm pretty like close to the chest about certain things in my childhood. A comet actually was the first time that I really talked about my father in a large way. And yeah, it's just, but yeah, I think that too, that one of my big whys of being an artist is like holding complication with care is like a big part of my work too. And like trying to understand and like hack my family and certain things that I had to suffer through, but also like where the love and the suffering were sort of like, you know, equally yoked at some times, and then one would outweigh the other many other times throughout my upbringing. And that's a big part of why I chose to be an artist. And like the survival thing too, right? Of like, I need to get this out somehow, and I don't want to like punch a wall or something worse. So, but you know, like, where does that go? Where does all that energy go? And like the ways that like, especially as kids, our imaginations protect us. That's a lot about what Comet's about too. But yeah, the walls shaking and like art always being a part of the rhythm of my house was just so true. Sketchbooks just open on the dining room table, and like me discovering that, like, Daddy draw, yeah. And then like going and like him just going through the sketchbooks from like years and years before I was born. It's like, whoa, what is that monster? It's like, oh, I was a dungeon master. This is my character from the 80s. It's like, what? You know, like hidden histories of our loved ones.
And being recognized by the Barrymore, right? What was that like?
Surreal, because, you know, Comet is about a young woman who is selectively mute. And on the day that her father is dying, she gets a phone call that's like, hey, you have a choice. You can either come to visit him in his last hours, or you can stay home and wait it out. And she's reckoning with, in her childhood home where she's never left, she's a painter, and she's reckoning with all of the memories that come flooding back of her childhood. And it's a play, but it's also a movement piece, a dance theater piece. And it sort of ends with a very hopeful, a very hopeful action of her like building the door that she allows herself to run through. Whether or not she goes in the direction of her father and the direction of her own healing is sort of like up to the audience to. It was a very intimate process, and a very lovely process. I made it with my partner at the time, Ryan Rebel, who's like a very talented theater maker. And I couldn't have done that piece without being in love with Ryan, and also like having a lot of care built into the process, because it was such like a deep personal excavation of my life in a lot of ways. The character's name is Sarah. It started as a short story in college. I was very experimental in form, where I wrote it as like a short play, but with tons of stage direction, and it's supposed to feel like theater, but not be a theater show. You know, during the pandemic, I did a lot of work as an actor for the most part, but I was also keeping up with my writing, and I thought it was like about time for me to produce something at a larger scale. And I fundraised, and I won the Black Theater Alliance of Philadelphia grant, which really helped with, producing the piece. And then I pitched it to the Painted Bride, and they gave me some money for the piece, and we ended up producing it that summer. It was like a very quick sort of like from, I want to do this short story that I wrote the sophomore year of college as an actual play, to fundraising, to, producing it, but basically in a year's time. And I was like kismet. I got very lucky and hired a bunch of very talented emerging artists in Philadelphia. Worked very closely. It was a very collaborative process. We were very scrappy about it. And we knew we wanted to like, hey, while we're at it, let's just like run for 2 weekends and see what the Barrymores think of us. And the night of the Barrymores, we just didn't go because we weren't feeling well. And then I got a barrage of text messages like, congratulations. And I was like, what are you talking about? It's like, you just won outstanding original production at the Barrymore Awards. I was like, you all are just lying. You know who's in that category? The bearded ladies, like applied mechanics, all this. I was like, there's no way that upstream report. And they're like, and my friends were like, Ange, you should like release a speech, but you did win.
Wow.
And it felt really good. I remember there's like a selfie of Ryan and I very goofy on the couch of the house we used to live in. Just like, we won. Thanks, y'all. And like sending like excited messages to the group chat of like, y'all, we just won a Barrymore. And everyone, and I hope that, you know, all the folks that I hired, they were able to like, and even now just like, I was on a Barrymore award winning production and in Philadelphia, that there is some mileage there, especially as like, you know, young artists, and for us all to win a Barrymore together was just like really, really special.
That's so exciting. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
beautiful.
you.
And that,
Yeah.
and you've been kind of talking about like growing up in Philly, spending a lot of time in Philly, working in Philly, local artists. Have you personally, like, have you seen any challenges or opportunities that specifically shaped the way you create art in Philly that inspires and that kind of like pushes you?
Yeah. The funding question is always something that I think about. And I'm so grateful to have had the education that I've had, especially like at Friends Select, because persuasive writing was something that was like drilled into us very early on, and how to like structure an argument. You know, there was a time where I was just applying to everything, and I was just writing my persuasive essays to everything that I felt, you know, qualified for, or even not qualified for. I just wanted money, just a little bit of something to just like get me started. I didn't even think that like paying myself was an option until like 3 years ago. Like it's just like this all goes to materials, or like I'm hiring a dramaturg or something, you know, I would forgo that. And the funding opportunities for individual artists are so scarce in town. You know, you can get like a $200 grant here and there, and even to be recognized as emerging, you need like years of experience.
Yeah.
How does one go about that? And like, I don't know how I would go about that if I wasn't born here. I don't know how I would have done that, you know, if I had moved to another city. So that's something that I'm like thinking about a lot, especially as someone who doesn't come from generational wealth. I couldn't have done what I've done the last like 4 years, 5 years as an artist if it weren't for my friends with generational wealth giving me a free place to stay, funding my art. Like there were anonymous donors that were just literally my wealthy friends' parents that like gave us $1,000 here and there. So I think a lot about that, and like the young artist that is like trapped in their situation too. Like I grew up in the hood, and if it wasn't for my parents like saying like, you better score high on those PSSAs, you better get straight A's, because like they were right. Like I was able to make it out, but I know there are like far more talented artists than me that don't score well on standardized testing. So I think a lot about that, which is part of why I want to open up or be a part of an underserved communities like arts organization to sort of like bridge that gap.
You're going to help so many people and inspire. I mean, you already do. You're going to inspire so many people, and just you keep doing this, going down this road and building this. Like, and you work with all these artists. You work in Philly, and I kind of have the same story where like I'm in New Mexico, and it's hard for me to get work here, but I go to Philly, and it's interesting. And that's how I met you. Like
yes,
we met through We Are the Seeds. You talked to Tylen, who's our founder of We Are the Seeds, and got us talking.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to talk about the project that they're working on. So what was the draw that pulled you to want to create Ever, to tell this story?
Yeah, that's a great question. Tangibly, it was the death of two very important matriarchs on my mother's side of the family. I always get emotional when I think about this because I lost my grandmother, Grandma Pringle, and my Aunt Cheryl, basically within a 2.5 year time frame, back to cancer. Both sides of my family, my mother and my father's side, predominantly on the East Coast and in the South, like Florida, Virginia, and then coming up north to Philadelphia, Delaware, a little bit of New Jersey, but not much. And I just felt this immense loss, obviously, of two people in my life that really helped me like come into my femininity and my womanhood. Like, and I say that expansively. And then like also like feeling the immense pressure and call to fill in the gaps of history that they left, and like feeling kind of guilty and ashamed of not like asking, especially my grandmother, certain questions about her upbringing. And my family is the Leopards, who were a predominant family during the Move bombing in the 80s. And John Africo is my second cousin. And so I had heard stories about his grandmother, Ethel Lavina Leopard, who was a mixed race Black and Seminole woman who was very important to my mother and her sisters growing up. I had been thinking a lot about her as a matriarch that I wasn't able to meet. And also just like the stories of, for better and for worse, there's this thing that happens in Black communities, especially in Pennsylvania, where folks say like, oh, I'm Black, but you know what, there's some Cherokee on my mom's side, or there's some, and I wanted to investigate sort of like that impulse to say I'm Black, and also to like just learn more about the hidden histories of my family. And so Ethel was really just like, as much as she was a person, she was also a myth. And I wanted to like learn a lot about Maroon communities. And I say that as like communities of Black folk that teamed up or were also Native and fought against the U.S. government in times of like slavery, in times of rebellion. Even now, there are Maroon communities that are still like alive and well in the United States. And I wanted to really investigate what it means to be Afro-Native and to have indigeneity like in your blood and blood quantum too, and all the trouble around that and what it means to be Indigenous. And I was also flirting with a very separate idea for a vampire play at the end of the world that had something to do with of climate change. And I remember like pitching this to a good friend of mine, Pax Resler, who I've collaborated with in the past. And I was saying that like, I want to do this play that is a vampire play at the end of the world, that is also a musical and also about climate change. And also I just lost my aunt to cancer, and I can't do a play about climate change without thinking about Indigenous land back. And also, like, because my mother's side of the family has some Afro-Native heritage, I want to like rope that in. And Pax is like, wow. And you should talk to Thailand at We Are the Seeds if you can. And it's like, yeah, I would love to, because part of what was so anxiety inducing about going, hey, I want to investigate my Afro-indigeneity and also like make sure I'm doing this right, in the sense that I know that like a lot of Native communities are very protective of their histories for very good reasons. And a lot of us Black folk in the many different cultures that we have across the United States are very protective of certain things within our communities too. And I remember that Zoom meeting that I had with you in Thailand, and I was like pitching this show again, and Thailand was very excited about it. She was like, hey, I think you found your musician and he's on this call, and it was you, Zach, which is very exciting. So I'm actually even more interested in what drew you to Ever. And we've been working on this piece for a very long time now, like ideating across Zoom lines and sending music and lyrics and scenes back and forth to each other. We've gotten really lucky I won the Independence Foundation Fellowship, and I spent a whole 2 months in the Everglades talking to Seminole community and like stomping through the muds of the swamps and like absorbing all the information. I'm still coming down from the high of that. That was last year. And,
wow.
And sort of metabolizing all of that, and then, having a huge heartbreak happen at the end of last year sort of like paused things, but also opened up things for me creatively in a way about this project. And so Ever is expanding, but it follows two characters, Drew and Micah, in an alternative reality where Lake Okeechobee is completely drained thanks to all of the environmental things that humans like to do. But it's also about Drew coming down from Philadelphia after like finding out she's adopted, and her mother may be in in Florida, and she's trying to find her mother, and she's trying to find her history. And her mother may or may not be like an Indigenous woman. And so, yeah, that's basically the story. It's a love story. And that's what I think I know about our project right now. What am I missing anything?
No, it's beautiful. And it's such the way it's framed and the environment and everything that's going on.
Yeah.
There's so many avenues we can have conversations with and, bring up some touchy subjects and just have this conversation artistically and entertain and make people think.
Something I love about like collaborating with you, Zach, is that I think we both just love trying things, and we're both slow artists when it matters.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that we both are very good at like, okay, we're commissioned to do a thing from some outside organization. We need that money, so we're gonna do the thing. But the joy of ever is like I will be inspired by something just like very one off, and I'll be like, Zach, you have to look at this. And then you'll look at it and be like, oh my God, this is great. And then we'll like hop on a call a week later and talk about it. But something that I really enjoy about your art, and if you haven't already, listeners of this podcast, just like do what I did when Zach was like, I want to be a part of this project, and completely stalk all of Zach's music and just like do a deep dive, because Zach is very, very, very talented. But
thank you.
Yeah, of course. It's just a fact, objectively.
I mean, I'm coming from you. You're insanely talented. You have an amazing voice, and the emotion that you hold in your writing and your voice, like it's a perfect combination.
That's part of what's been really validating, is that we have proof of concepts and music, and literally like singing back and forth to each other, our voices on things. And this project is huge. It's huge. It's a bigger show than I think we both anticipated it would be. And I'm very excited for the institutional support that we've already had. And like the people saying yes to us in Philly. Thank you to Azuka Theater. Thank you to Shakespeare in Clark Park, to We Are the Seeds, for really like being advocates for us. And thank you to all the Seminole community that like really embraced me with open arms while I was down there. Just like being able to walk through the reservation and put my feet in the mud, and meeting all the folks that I met down there, and be able to like meet python hunters and nature conservationists. And the work is yet to begin. That's how I felt. Like even like on the flight back home, I was like, now I know what I need to investigate more closely. And I think the next step that I would really love for us, if anyone with money is listening or like resources, get us and Zach in a physical room together in Florida, so I can take Zach on a midnight python hunt so we can see all the stars. Because my friend Armando, and Go Nature excursions, you should go. If you are going down to the Everglades, Go Nature is the place to be. Armando, he's waiting for us. He's like, anytime. So you need to put your feet in the mud too, because I think that it'll really open up just like a whole world for us, and musically and
I remember when you went down there and you were talking about the snake handlers and stuff. I was like, oh, that sounds so amazing. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
Like the inspiration you could get down there, and helping you like kind of find the side of yourself through these stories, and just connecting. It made me really excited. Like this is something beautiful and exciting. And you're right, we do take our time, but especially with this one, we do need to take our time.
We need to take our time and be very intentional.
The foundation, I think, is almost there. So once we have that, it's just, yeah.
And something that I also learned that going down to Florida was what not to write about. Like there are quite a few Seminole community members who are like, you can never put this kind of thing in a story, or like, I mean, and I'm even like cagey, like talking about certain things now, because I just have so much respect for what can be said or what is not said, and what was shared with me in private. And like, and so, yeah, just something about intentionality too is very important here, especially as someone who has Afro-Native ancestry, but would not identify as someone who is like Afro-Indigenous, because I did not grow up in the culture of it, and like did not grow up like on a reservation, or like with a connection to like a one-on-one connection to someone within the community to help me educate myself about where I come from. I just am, very careful about how I'm moving through space. And thank you to We Are the Seeds too for helping facilitate some of those relationships. I think this project cannot happen without y'all in a lot of ways. And I think that there's so much art that is done so quickly and carelessly, especially when you're especially art that usually is put out into the world by people with a lot of power and now no connection to the communities that they want to write about, just across sort of, not even just across race, but across cultural and sexual and all the identities, all the isms. It's very refreshing to be working with you, Zach, and for us to be both in lockstep about how to tell a story with care and empathy and intentionality. And I don't feel any rush. Anyone who wants to rush us, I think, is the wrong collaborator for us or the wrong organization for us. And no one has rushed us. In fact, when we've asked for more time, everyone's yeah, actually, we were thinking about how you're going to get all this done and by next summer. It's yeah, great, thanks. Because we genuinely thought we could, but the project, as you evolve and as an artist and as you find things through the act of making, things change for the better, I think, always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. You're absolutely amazing. I mean, we can spend
so
hours
much time. Yeah.
talking and I'm sure we will throughout our life. But it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you and hearing these sides. I've heard things about you I've never heard before, histories and moments in your life.
Wow. Yeah.
And so thank you for sharing that with us and the audience. And it's an absolute pleasure to have you on From Here with you today.
Yeah.
So
thank you for having me. Yeah. There's things I haven't talked about that I've shared with you all here. So yeah, thank you. I feel comfortable. That's a testament to you, Zach, and to this podcast. So.
Well, thank you. But thank you all for listening to From Here with a View and sticking around and hearing Rayne's amazing story. It's been an absolute pleasure. You all have a great day. Thank you.
Yeah. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of From Here with a View, a We Are the Seeds Philadelphia podcast. Please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. You'll be helping us grow our listener community and elevate the impact of our podcast. You can learn more about this podcast at wearetheseeds.org. From Here with a View is executive produced by Michelle St. John with Zachariah Julian and Tyler Nagoyo producing. Sound mixing and original theme music by Zachariah Julian. To listen to more from Zachariah, follow him on Spotify and Apple Music. From Here with a View logo art was inspired by an original oil pastel drawing by artist Jason Weesall. Graphic design by Fernanda Leon. This podcast was funded in part by Independence Public Media Foundation.